Hello there, welcome to Ringgit Sense, the show where we talk to you about money. I'm Azara Tagaya, your host. Now, this week we want to find out what are the pros and cons of having children earlier or later in your career. This is a question that many married couples are contemplating, as they would want to focus on their careers first and have stable finances before actually starting a family. We'll be speaking to the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia to walk you through this topic. But before that, to get an idea of the cost of raising kids today, we spoke to one young family to find out what is their monthly budget. Let's watch.
Nadirul Badri is an architect in the private sector, while his wife Nur Wahida Arifin currently runs an online business from home. They've been married 3 years with a 2-year-old son, Naufal Amzar, and the family is expecting another baby soon.
Anggaran perbelanjaan kami untuk satu rumah dalam sebulan lebih kurang 4,000 4,000 merangkumi semua sekali lah perbelanjaan untuk anak kami, pampers dan susu, dan untuk groceries, barang dapur, barang basah dengan barang kering. Kemudian dengan komitmen kami lah dengan sewa rumah, transportation, dengan pembelanjaan untuk pergi balik kerja lah.
Nur Wahida quit her job to focus on raising Naufal, but plans on rejoining the workforce soon.
Masa kerja dulu pun banyak travel, ada banyak info baby sakit semua, so decide untuk berhenti kerja and fokus dekat Naufal lah. So dah 2 tahun now. So selama jaga ni dia okey, tak sakit sangat lah.
Alhamdulillah lah, dia tak ada yang serius punya ni lah.
So di samping saya berhenti sementara waktu kerja ni, saya buat online business. Alhamdulillah so far boleh menampung lah perbelanjaan bulanan kami sekeluarga.
We asked them what they think about the pros and cons of raising a family in the early stages of marriage versus the later stages.
Mempunyai anak pada awal perkahwinan tu, saya rasa kita dari segi
belajar dari segi tanggungjawab lah.
Terus tanggungjawab lah. Kita ada anak ni, kita lebih bertanggungjawab lah. And then dari segi financially tu, kita rancang tu lebih sistematik lah, lebih structured. Kita fikir banyak benda lah. Tapi bila anak yang kedua ni, anak ketiga tu, barang-barang yang kita beli tu dah tak banyak dah. So kita beli untuk keperluan bulanan saja. Sebab kalau yang barang-barang one off yang kita beli tu, macam baby cot ke apa ke, itu semua dah settle lah kan.
So after berkahwin, sebab dah banyak komitmen, tanggungjawab pun besar, saya dapat rasa dari segi perbezaan pertambahan perbelanjaan kewangan bulanan tu meningkat almost 1,000 jugalah. Sebab bila dah ada baby ni, sebab Naufal dia halfway je breastfeed, fully breastfeed, so we need to spend banyak dekat pampers dengan susu lah. So almost 1,000, and termasuk babysitter jugalah. Sebab babysitter pun dua kami balik lambat, so every 1 hour lambat pun dia akan charge. So that one akan meningkat jugalah.
And when it comes to family planning, Nadirul and Nur Wahida are on the same page.
Bagi perancangan keluarga lah kan, kewangan tu tak menjadi faktor utama kan. Sebab apa yang kita fikir, let's say sebelum kita kahwin ni, kita dah rancang lah kan, kita nak ini tapi cuma kita punya rancangan je lah kan. Let's say dalam berapa tahun kita nak anak berapa tu kan. Tapi financial dia comes later lah. Kita rancang apa yang kita nak kita capai, and then financially kita susun daripada situ lah.
Super excited.
Okay, so in our studio today is Felix Neal, a financial planner from the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia, to help couples walk through this difficult conversation, kids now or later. Hello, Felix. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Okay, so the big question now, what should couples actually go through or consider in having kids early or later on in their lives?
I think it's a very interesting question. For us, I think one of the most important things to do is really to have that conversation on family planning early on.
Yeah.
You don't want to, get into a situation where, it's already starting before you even had that conversation. So it's very important to have that conversation early. Now, obviously, the things that goes on in people's minds is money when it comes to kids, right? So the question is, do I have enough or don't I? What is the right amount I should have and all of that? I suppose to answer that really depends on, if you were to break it down, if you like, there is the so-called conceiving part of the phase of having kids, and then later on, basically the school going and, adulthood and all that. So for us, I would say that the conversation revolves around, do I have enough money to, start a family? That would be some immediate costs, and then there is the ongoing cost.
Okay, so is there actually a right time financially when you look at your finances and you think, okay, maybe I should actually hold out having a child right now? Is there a right age or right time in your life?
I would say it also depends on where people feel they are in terms of their career development, right? For some people, they might feel that, putting the brakes on to start a family at that juncture for them is not the right time, maybe because their career is really taking off. For others, it might be, I'm not really seeing myself doing too much in the next couple of years. Maybe now is a good time. So one is where you stand in terms of your career. The other, obviously, as we spoke about, was on money, right? So how much should you have? I would say if you look in terms of expenses, you should be able to set aside something like between 20 to 30,000 as the so-called initial startup cost of starting a family. Now, obviously, that number depends on whether or not you're having any company benefits that you can offset against that cost. Right? So if you have that as an initial, and on a monthly basis, it would range anywhere between 750 to 1,000 or more, depending on what kind of a lifestyle you want to provide your child.
Okay, so you mentioned having a certain amount of money before you can actually think about having children. You make it sound like starting a business or buying a car or buying a house.
It is a lifetime commitment.
So, okay, so when we look at things like that, like buying a house, you should have at least, you should make at least this amount of money if you want to buy like a comfortable house. So what about children? Is there like any schedule that we can look at? Like if you make this amount of money, you can only manage to have like 1 or 2 children and don't go beyond that because you might not be able to afford that lifestyle.
Yes. So I alluded to just now that you should have about 20 to 30,000 upfront prepared for the so-called cost of starting and having a child. Subsequently, we're looking at 750 to 1,005 per month per child. So basically, the number of kids that you can have is a multiple of the amount of money that you have, or it's a function of the amount of money that you have. And some people, the thought process that goes into considering 1 or 2 kids is going to be very different from 3, 4, and beyond, right? 1 or 2 kids, I think most parents will just say, somehow or another, we're going to try and make it work. But when you get to 3 and more, I think it's going to be quite a drag financially. So you have to be prepared, to be sure that you can actually afford over the long term.
Okay, so how much should a married couple achieve in terms of their income per month, let's say, in order to have them be financially ready to have their first child? How much should a couple make together?
Yeah, I think if you were to work out the numbers, if I alluded to the 1,005 or so per child, and if you were to factor in your own personal living expenses, I suppose a child, again, depending on where they are staying, in which part of Malaysia, I would say that between 5,000 to 6,000, you should be able to so-called afford, starting a family.
Okay,
yeah.
So on that note as well, are there any pros and cons in terms of having your first child earlier or later in your career?
At the end of the day, it depends on, how your career is actually doing, right? If your career is, doing very well, right, and if you think that that's the time that you can actually also factor in child raising, then that's the right time for you. But if you feel that, you really can't afford to slack off a little bit when it comes to work because you really, your career is really booming, if you like, then perhaps you can actually delay it slightly. And I don't think there is any so-called right or wrong. It really depends on the family themselves.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much, Felix, or Mr. Neal. Now, we will be taking a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be continuing this discussion. We want to talk more about the cost of raising a family and the pros and cons of having a family earlier or later in your career. More on that when we come back on Ringgit Sense. Back on Ringgit Sense, we're talking about the cost of having a child earlier or later in your career. And we have in the studio Mr. Felix Neal, a financial planner from the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia, to talk to us more about this topic. Okay, Mr. Neal, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, before the break, we talked about the overall costs of actually having a child. Now, can you help break it down for us further in terms of the monthly expenses and also where that money actually goes?
Okay, so if you're talking about, a very young child, obviously there are costs involved with, for example, purchase of food products, so milk and what have you, right? Then obviously we will also have diaper costs and what have you, cleaning, bathing stuff, clothing. So all of that could vary anywhere from 700 and above. Depending on what kind of a lifestyle you want to give your child. So that's just those type of items, but not forgetting that you need someone to take care of the child. So it's either yourself or you're going to give it to, under the care of a child babysitter, right? So that again would range anywhere between $700 to $2,000. Again, depending on how many hours, whereabouts is your location in Malaysia. So these are some of the costs that add up to the 700 to 1,500 or so per child that you should expect.
Okay, so just now we also touched a little bit about how much the parents make before they decide on having a child. And aside from their income, they should also consider other obligations like loans, or if they have anything else to pay off, debts, credit cards.
Yes.
So how do these things factor in to deciding when you should start your family and if you should start when you want to?
Correct. I think at the end of the day, the couple would already know what their expenses are when it comes to living expenses, the mortgage, travel expenses, how much they spend on clothing and all of that. What we would advocate is that you should add the 1,500 to 2,000 over and above those expenses, so that you know where you stand in terms of being able to afford the child, and how many children will be a multiple of that amount, if you like. That will be something that you should think about. But let's not just consider the immediate costs, because ultimately we do need to be also aware that in actual fact there is some long-term costs involved as well. So not too long-term, but think a little bit in terms of, for example, some kind of savings that you want to set aside for children. Now, the beauty of doing it very early is that you're able to take advantage of the compounding effects of growth of money, right? So, for example, if you are able to set aside just as little as $200 a month, and if you're trying to reach a $100,000 goal, if you are able to save and invest for 18 years, you just need to put aside $200 every month. Right? But let's say if you start very much later and you only have half the time, you only are able to save and invest for 9 years, and if you can only get a return of about 8% per annum, right, you would need to be able to put aside $600 a month instead of just $200 a month. So it's very important to start early. Right? And the last thing I also want to mention is that don't forget about the insurance requirements. Right? For young children, I think the insurance requirements would revolve around, for example, medical card. It's a good thing to have. Unless, of course, you're saying, let me just rely on government hospital, right? But I think it's a good option to have.
Okay. There are also some mothers who want to actually quit their jobs to take care of their family because they can save money in terms of not having to send their baby to the babysitter and stuff like that. But at the same time, this will also decrease the household's income per month. So what do you think are some of the factors that young families, young married couples should consider before the mother quits their job?
Okay. First things first is, if the mother quits the job, then the question becomes, will the father be able to pay for all those expenses required today as well as the future expenses, right?
Okay.
Not just the today, but also think about the future, right? And if the answer is yes or maybe, then the question becomes, is the mother able to take on a bit of a part-time kind of a role, right? Or are you able to start a home-based business where you have the flexibility, but you're still able to generate some income? Right? Now, I think what we should also think about is that it's not an either-or kind of a situation. The mother can take a stop, a short break from work for a short period of time until perhaps the child goes to school, and then the mother can come back into the workforce again. Right? So it does not have to be an all-or-nothing kind of a decision at this point in time.
Okay. What about for families who are actually considering the future and they actually want to have this financial security, something to fall back on? So you need to have your insurance, you need to have your education fund set up, savings. What are some of the essential financial products that a young family has to have for their whole family? Okay,
I think you brought up very good points already. So insurance, I would say focus more on the medical card. That's the most important. Life insurance, because again, the kids don't have dependents, right? So in actual fact, you don't really need to insure them for life or critical illness. I think that is not that critical. Savings or investment plan, yes, simply because you need to take advantage of the compounding effect of investments over time. So you need to start that early. But one of the things that we realize a lot of people don't do is look at estate planning. So when it comes to estate planning, I'm actually talking about the parents having their wills, right? And perhaps also considering setting up a trust. I don't want to remind people, but if you recall MH370, parents have gone and disappeared. Some of them, both parents, right? Father and mother. The question becomes, how would the kids be able to fend for themselves financially should that happen? So setting up a trust really would help the situation of double tragedy, right? So estate planning is an area that we see is very important. Another area that obviously families should take advantage of is all the tax reliefs that are eligible for people with children, medical insurance, the child reliefs, PTPTN savings, for example. Those are all the things that, would actually add up over time.
Some valid points there, especially from a financial planner. I think those are some of the things that the viewers can actually consider as well if they're going through this similar situation. Okay, with that, thank you so much, Mr. Neal, for joining us today, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
It's my pleasure.
All right, now there you have it, the discussion on the cost of actually having children. Hopefully you guys learned something from the discussion today. We're going to take a short break now, but after the break, we'll be looking at property investment tips for this year. Is 2018 a good year to buy property? Stay with us for the answers.
Welcome back to Ringgit Sense. Ever wondered how you could sell your personal items on social media? We spoke to one social media wizard and asked him for some tips. At one time, the name Elmi Elmo was instantly recognizable in the Twitter universe. A tweet by him could gain thousands of retweets on average because of its simple, concise, and oftentimes funny content. That tweet handle belongs to Muhammad Zulhilmi Zulifan, or known by friends as Elmi.
Okay, nama saya Muhammad Zulhilmi, ataupun orang lagi kenal sebagai Elmi, Managing Director untuk Hashtag Media Sdn Bhd. Hashtag Media Sdn Bhd ni dah tertubuh daripada tahun 2012, cuma daripada tahun lepas, tahun 2016 baru kita orang bergerak secara menyeluruh, secara full time. So saya dengan social media memang daripada tahun 2001-2002. Social media lepas tu adalah MySpace, Friendster, MRC, Yahoo Messenger.
Elmi has since started his own social media marketing company, #media.
Kita ada buat social media marketing, kita ada buat social media campaign, yang kita orang ada buat video production. Jadi Sebagai orang akan kenal hashtag media ni sebagai social media agency sebab dia semua benda dia ada. Saya sendiri dulu saya pernah niaga nasi lemak food truck. Bila saya yang kena berniaga, saya tak sempat nak promote sebab saya terlampau banyak sangat benda kena buat. So bila kena buat, kadang-kadang marketing tu dia jadi benda yang remeh, jadi benda yang macam aku tak payah promote lah hari ni. Padahal apa yang dia tak promote hari tu yang sebenarnya membuatkan kedai dia tu tak laku hari tu.
Whether it's a product, service, or even self-branding, social media can be powerful if you know how to use it. We turn to Elmi for his advice. What are his simple tips to make social media work for you?
Cara dia, tips dia senang je. Mula-mula, apa-apa perniagaan sekalipun, kita kena bermula dengan kawan-kawan, dengan juga keluarga kita. Contoh kalau saya jual tudung. Orang pertama yang saya akan bagi, saya bagi kat mak saya. Sebab satu, mak saya akan pakai. Mak saya akan letak dalam Facebook dia. And mak saya ada kawan-kawan dia. So, kawan-kawan dia adalah target market yang saya cari. Satu. Dua, saya bagi dekat kawan-kawan saya perempuan. Saya tahu kawan-kawan perempuan saya, dia akan pakai. Saya cakap dekat dia, aku bagi free. Kau pakai, kau promote dekat kau punya Facebook dan Instagram. So, bila kat situ dah mula lah. Dia boleh start cari duta, ambassador. Tak semestinya ambassador yang besar. Tak semestinya kena ambil Nora Danish ke. Tak semestinya kena ambil orang yang famous. Cari orang yang baru nak naik. Baru yang nak naik yang tak semestinya followers 100,000 pun. Cari yang 10,000, 20,000. Sebab kita bermula dengan benda yang kecil. Kita jangan mula start je macam aku fikir nak besar. Kan? Kita takut kalau kita buat benda yang something yang besar. Contoh kalau kita ambil Nora Danish. Nora Danish ada 1 point berapa juta dekat followers dekat Twitter, Instagram. Dia promote, tiba-tiba ada orang 200,000 orang nak beli. Kita mampu tak untuk keluarkan tudung 200,000 sebab kita baru start? Tak mampu. So kita jangan buat yang besar, kita start dengan kecil. Kena hari-hari, kena post. Maksudnya kalau tak ada konten sekalipun, kena juga cari konten untuk biar nampak kita tu hidup. Biar nampak. So maksudnya tak semestinya kita mempromosikan barang kita saja. Kita boleh je cakap, contoh saya jual tudung. Tapi tengah famous Niloufar hijab. Tak salah bagi saya untuk promote juga Niloufar hijab tu. Sebab bila saya promote Niloufar hijab tu, akan ada orang interact dengan saya punya tudung juga. Sebab saya post dekat saya punya company, tapi orang akan comment and like. Benda tu yang kita nak. Sebab bila comment dengan like, kita dapat interaction. Copywriting untuk caption adalah benda yang paling sangat penting sekali. Sebab, contoh saya tak nak ambil tudung lah, saya ambil nasi lemak. Saya jual nasi lemak. Ada 2 tempat saya jual nasi lemak. Satu saya jual nasi lemak dekat Nilai, student. Satu lagi saya jual kat Shalam, keluarga. Duduk keluarga. Saya tak boleh menggunakan copywriting yang sama dekat dua-dua tempat. Sebab dua-dua tempat ni adalah target market yang berbeza. Avatar saya di tempat dua-dua tempat ni adalah berbeza. Student dekat Nilai dan satu ni keluarga. Kalau dekat student, saya kena gunakan ayat-ayat student untuk tarik student tu datang kedai saya. Contoh, ayat yang saya akan gunakan, saya tak akan guna kami. Saya akan guna kita orang. Sebab budak-budak yang datang student, umur 21. Tapi kalau saya cakap kita orang dekat orang yang umur 40 tahun yang ada anak-anak, dia akan rasa kita orang tu biadab. Jadi kita tak boleh gunakan ayat kita orang dekat tu. Kita kena cakap kami. So kalau family, kita kena buat promotion yang berbeza. Copywriting pun kita kena ikut dengan usia kita punya avatar.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week. We hope that today's episode on financial planning and also on property investment has been useful to you. Now, if you want to watch today's interview again, go to our Facebook page, Ringgit Sense TV3. I'm Azara Tagaya, and I will see you next week.